There was a year, and I'm not proud of how I started, where I looked at my life and I didn't recognize a single thing in it. Not my job, not my relationships, not the person that I saw in the mirror at 6 a.m. before I put the mask on. And instead of doing the reasonable thing, like going to therapy, taking a extended vacation, or even speaking to someone I was close to, I chose to burn it all down. The career that I'd spent 20 years building, the version of myself everyone expected me to be, the routine, the roles, the pretending, all of it, gone. And if you're watching this, especially if you're in your 40s or your 50s, and something is quietly screaming at you, I made this video for you. Hi, my name is Debbie, and welcome to my channel, The Life I Did Not Plan. I am a member of Generation X, one of the oldest members, and some refer to us as Boomer Light. I have been in healthcare for 3 decades. And when I hit my mid-40s, I threw it all away. And this is my story. So, what does a life that's falling apart look like from the outside? Well, it doesn't look unusual. Everyone around me had plans and career goals. And I was the type of person who was always wanting to pursue and do more because I had to keep up. So I got kind of caught up in that feeling of needing to pursue the next thing, the next title. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't left behind because I just knew I needed these things in order to be successful. So I went to work on completing my bachelor's degree. I went to school full time, I worked full time, and I was taking care of my dad, who was in the end stages of colon cancer at the time. And I was the caregiver. I was the breadwinner. And I could do this. I could do this. And I would do this because that's always who I've been. But here's the thing. When your life's falling apart, it doesn't look it on the outside. Everybody thinks everything's just fine. You think everything is just fine. It feels like you're still doing all the things that you always have done. You show up, you pay the bills, you're pursuing that next career milestone. Like for me, getting those extra initials behind my name was the thing to be doing. I did everything right, or at least everything that I was told that was right. I built the career, I built the life, I kept my head down, and I worked. And oh my God, did I work. Because that's what our generation does. It's what we were taught. You put in the hours, you will deserve the stability because you've put in the time. You will deserve the peace that you will get. And all of those things that you would get when you arrived. the prestige, the outward appearance to the world, to your neighbors, to your family, that you have made it, that you are successful. Except none of it ever came. None of it. What came instead was an unsettledness, this constant nagging feeling that something was off. Not broken, really, just wrong. Kind of like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. You know, you had shoes on. Technically, you weren't wrong. You had shoes on, and you could wear them, and you could walk. But every time you took a step, it wasn't right. And I ignored that voice for years. And if you're like me, you get really good ignoring that voice. You get really good. You fill that silence with work and with noise and with being busy. Because busy means you don't have to sit with the question that you're absolutely terrified of asking yourself, and even more terrified of knowing the answer to. So what was the thing that actually cracked it open for me? Well, I'm going to tell you it was a made for TV moment, nor was it a big explosion. The real version for me came as something awful, raw, not pretty, and turned out to be the lowest point of my life. I remember I came home from class and had done the clinical, and I was sitting down, doing the daily debriefing, going over, reviewing the patients I'd cared for that day. And I was just looking at them, looking at the classwork that I had done, the things that I were being taught, the care that I was being taught to provide for these patients. And I just stopped. I froze. And I was like, what? And it just over and over in my mind, it was like, this can't be the way it's supposed to be. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And, at first I thought it was just, the schooling, the education part of it, the care, the funneling, the feeling like you're hurting people. I thought maybe it was just solely not agreeing with the educational process and then the path that healthcare seemed to be going down. But in reality, it wasn't that. And the longer I sat there, the more I thought about it. And I remember saying out loud to nobody, this is not the way my life is supposed to be. This can't be it. This isn't the way my life is supposed to be. And I thought about all of the things that I had done in my life. And I allowed the frustrations and the anger at, oh my God, I've wasted my life doing this. And I'm in my mid-40s. And I'm trying to meet these milestones. And I'm not going to meet these career milestones. Nor do I think I even really want to meet them. And if I didn't meet them, then I knew it meant I failed. And in that moment, in what had been more than a decade, I let myself feel exhausted. Not tired, but exhausted. Bone deep, soul deep. Not the kind of exhaustion that goes away if you get sleep, because it wasn't about sleep. I was exhausted from performing, from maintaining, from being that person who everyone had built their life around, their expectations around. I had always been the proverbial Gen Xer. You know, we don't ask. We see what needs to be done. We go and do it. That's just because no one else is going to do it. So we just do it. We take it on. We do it. And then I thought, I don't even know who I am anymore. And that didn't make me cry. But I just sat there in the quietness. And little by little, I began to get angry. Angry at my life. At me. So what actually happened? Well, I want to be really careful here, because burning it down wasn't clean, nor was it heroic. It was messy. It hurt the people that I loved. And it cost me things that I still grieve. But here's what I did. I left that career path that I was on. I stopped pretending it was enough. I stopped giving it the best of me because it stopped giving me any benefit. I walked away from grad school. Now, I had poured my heart and soul into it for a year, and it had drained my life force. I hated it. When I entered grad school, I chose to quit my full-time job so that I could devote all of my time and my study and my effort and every ounce of my energy into finishing that degree, because I was going into it at a deficit, being in my mid-40s. So I was all in. So I thought. So I had been out of the workforce for a year. And in that year's time, especially in healthcare, there's so many rapid changes, new policies, new procedures, new treatments, new care. And I was behind again. And having 20 years of experience behind me, I cost. My wages would be high to pay for that kind of experience. And there are plenty of younger, inexperienced nurses that meet budget expectations better. So I was essentially going to have to start all over at the very beginning, at the bottom of the ladder. I ended relationships, not all of them, but the ones that I had been staying in out of history, out of a sense of duty, not any relationship that was really beneficial to me. The relationships that I was keeping and in because of who I was who I was performing to be, I ended them. Then I looked at where I was living. Was it going to help me to figure out who I was? Was it going to help me to get back on my feet? And if I stay here, is this really me? Or is it because I'm too scared to leave? I eventually chose to leave. So I packed up all my stuff and I left my home that I'd been in 20 plus years. I moved from rural Appalachia to a more centralized location where I was going to be surrounded by new people, new places, new things, new culture, experiences that I had not ever had in my life, with my goal of, yes, I know I was going to have to get started over again, but I could quickly get my skills up to par because I had a plan, tentative plan, to enter the travel healthcare arena. Then the next thing is I stopped saying yes to things that hollowed me out, things that I felt were superficial, things I didn't agree with, things I just had no interest in. As a matter of fact, I got really quiet. I turned inward and spent a lot of time solitude. I'm not saying that I wasn't around people, but I spent a lot more time at home trying to get to know myself again. And I started very terrifyingly and awkwardly telling the truth to others when they asked me something or asked me to do something. To the people that were close to me, that was really difficult. It's very difficult. Not so much saying the words, but how they reacted to me, essentially cutting them off. It was like they were junkies and that I was their fix, because now who was going to get these things done? How were they going to get their things done? And why was I being so selfish when they knew and I knew that it could only be done by me, and they had relied on me to do these things for years? And why now, Debbie? Why now? And then the last thing, as part of all that, I said it out loud for the first time. I'm not okay. I have not been okay. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know what being okay for me even looks like anymore. So I want to tell you, I want to be very clear about this. What I did, it was not brave. It wasn't an empowering moment at all. It was just what happens when you run out of the energy to keep pretending. My burn wasn't so much a choice as it was a collapse. And from the outside, I know it looked like to people around me that I was having a breakdown. And maybe I did in some sense. And maybe that's okay. So, what does it look like with the rebuilding? Well, I'm not going to tell you any Hallmark version where everything got magically better. That would be a lie. And we've been sold enough lies in our lifetime. What I'll tell you is this: the other side is quieter. And for someone who used to use noise to survive, being around quiet has been quite the adjustment. There were months where I didn't know who I was without the degree pursuit, without the role that I had previously, and then changing that role as a nurse into something I'd never done before. There was an adjustment to new city, new people, new culture, new things, new interactions. There were times I'd wake up and feel genuinely lost without a performance to prepare for, without the mask. And I did mourn for a bit the identity that I had made for myself but left behind. That part is real and it's hard, and nobody warns you about it. But here's what's also real. For the first time in a long time, I was happy. I started to feel like I was happy. And I began to feel what is mine. Good choices were mine. Bad choices were mine. And it's okay. I'm no longer living with the version of me that was someone else's version. And it's okay. So if you're in the before right now, if you're in that low hum, that quiet wrongness, that exhaustion that you can't name, I want you to know that what you're feeling is real. You're not ungrateful. You're not broken. You're not crazy for wanting something that actually fits. You built a life. It wasn't your life. And there's no shame in finally admitting that. And this channel is for that conversation. The one that we were never really given permission to have. And I'm glad you're here. If this landed for you, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want more of these type of conversations about the life we're actually living, not the one you were sold. And I'll see you the next time. Bye.